All right, everybody, if I can have your attention, we're going to go ahead and get started so we can stay on time today. We don't have a moderator, so we're just going to go ahead and jump into it. My name is Christy Moore. I'm the Family Liaison Specialist for the Children and Youth Branch in the North Carolina Division of Public Health, and I have a child who's 8 years old who has autism.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mary Lloyd. I am a family partner with the branch. I live in Morganton, Lenoir area, western part of North Carolina, and I am the parent of a young lady that has an intellectual developmental disability, and she is just an amazing young woman. She makes me better. And let me give one more shout out. My youngest is in the room, so I have to be good.
And I'm Tamara. I'm the one with the long name and even longer job title. So I'm also in our Children and Youth branch. I'm a supervisor there and involved in our family engagement efforts.
Okay, so these are our objectives for today. We're hoping that you'll come away learning how we in the Children and Youth branch implement the Parents as Collaborative Leaders curriculum. We want to answer your questions, so we're going to go through this a little bit fast, hopefully not too fast, but we know that you have access to the presentation through the app, so we want to make sure we have plenty of time for questions because we're also going to provide you with the curriculum on a thumb drive in English and in Spanish so you can empower families in your state.
All right, just quickly, so this is our organizational structure in North Carolina. The Women and Children's Health Section is our Title V administrator, and all of us represent the Best Practices Unit.
So parents, caregivers, family members have learned to trust the branch because the branch has created and sought out programs and information that really provide a lot of support and services. And because of their commitment to making sure that we as parents get what we need, they've used a lot of wisdom in asking us what we think is most important, and then they turn around and utilize best practice. And we do a lot with studying appropriate behavior and then modeling that. Then also, the branch has learned to trust us as parents to share with them what's working and what's not working. And together we support the work of improving the lives of children, youth, and families all across North Carolina and in our local communities. So this is who we are. And I'm going to give you a minute to read that, just a minute. And I'll say just a minute because I want you to realize that we as branch family partners are full partners. We have lived experience, we lead through example, we discuss barriers and challenges up front to create safe and supportive environments for family engagement. We encourage parents to invite the people that they need to help them succeed during their meetings. We build plans that fit very well into the family's belief system and help them understand what it is that they want to succeed in. We give and expect commitment and responsibility from everyone at the table for those successful, tongue-tied, outcomes. Then we work together to create an environment of change, which means that we change the plans when they're not working, and we seek additional resources and supports and services when the plans need to change. So this is very big. We provide peer-to-peer, parent-to-parent support, meaning that we meet families where they are, wherever and in whatever condition they find themselves in, whether it's emotionally or physically, and we walk side by side with them to get their desired outcome. Wherever it is that they want to go, wherever their destination is, that's where we begin, even if the destination becomes a journey.
Okay, just as Mary indicated, so our framework does have multiple activities, and this is intentional so that our family partners can best match their interests and skills. So on this slide and the next slide, we're going to highlight the variety of those activities. But specifically today in our presentation, we're going to sort of represent 4 of these activities. First is the value of having a full-time family partner on your staff. Second, we're going to model what your staff and family partner training team can look like. Third, we're demonstrating what this family engagement can look like from an advocacy level on multiple levels. But specifically, we're really going to delve into what our parent leadership trainer model looks like. And then finally, as the Title V administrator, our family partners are involved in that process from the very onset. They are involved in the narrative completion. They are involved in the on-site reviews too.
So just as professional development is crucial for staff, for agency staff, we also make sure that we provide educational and skill building opportunities for our family partners. So here are some examples up on the screen. Something I'd like to point out is one of them is supporting family partners to attend conferences like this. So every year the Children and Youth Branch sponsors parents to attend various conferences, and especially this one. Raise your hand if you're a Children and Youth Branch family partner in the room. Okay, there you go. And also, today we're going to highlight at the bottom peer-to-peer leadership training model. The peer-to-peer part is extremely important, parents teaching and supporting other parents. Currently, we're using the Parents as Collaborative Leaders curriculum. Next month, we are actually adding a healthy sexuality for children with special health care needs curriculum as well.
Okay, so for the remainder of our time together, we're going to talk specifically about our parent leadership training. So these are all the elements that we are going to go over, so hang on. So first off, the curriculum. So we reviewed several different curriculums and selected the Parents as Collaborative Leaders training for really 3 different reasons. First is because of the leadership skills that it contained could be used for a multitude of settings for families. Number 2 is because it really did focus on families of children and youth with special health care needs, and that was an area that we really wanted to start with. Third is because family partners were involved in the actual development of this curriculum. They were involved in the review and even of the testing of it. So, having that family voice all infused throughout the whole development. This curriculum was developed by the University of Vermont and the Pacer Center. It used to be an open source curriculum on the internet, but last that we looked that it was no longer there. However, we have gotten specific permission from the developers at the University of Vermont and the Pacer Center to continue to share this curriculum, which, as we noted, we have copies of that on a thumbstick for you.
So today, when you leave this session, you'll take these items with you. And then there are additional items that are on your flash drive that will give you more information. They'll break it down just a little bit more. And all of this is to allow you the opportunity to review, adjust, audit, duplicate what North Carolina has done to build a bridge for parent and family engagement in your community. We're expecting great things. Can I just say that? We're expecting great things from you as you leave here and take this information back to your community. So, your flash drive is important. Don't lose it.
Okay, so we started this process. We had what we considered our first cohort, which really was a pilot group. And in that initial pilot, we developed an application process. We did a very targeted release as to who we wanted to identify as potential trainers. And the application process ensured that we would have the geographic diversity, cultural diversity, a good representation of families with experience and children with a multitude of conditions. The application also helped us to really look at individuals who had experience in either group facilitation, being a part of a community coalition, had maybe even done some public speaking. And the reason why that was really important for this first group is because these individuals were going to be an extension of the Children and Youth Branch out in the community. So it was really important that we vetted the representation of these trainers. So we also focused on quality versus the quantity of trainers. Again, in knowing that they were going to be a representation of us. So that's why, our numbers were smaller in regards to the numbers trained. Now, an item to do keep in mind is to expect some, recidivism from some of your family partners in your training cadre because, life does happen. Some of the other elements with this very first pilot is our staff. It was myself and the Innovative Approaches initiative director. We actually conducted the training. We modeled some of the modules, but then had our potential trainers to actually practice some of the models in sort of what was a safe peer setting at that time too.
So then a little while later, we realized, wow, people are requesting these. We need some more trainers. So we decided to add to our existing cohort. And what was interesting about this is that, they had to create the first Train the Trainer program. Well, when we created the second Train the Trainer program, this time we incorporated from the very beginning our first cohort of trainers, because who better to teach the next set than the people who were already out there doing it and knew what was working, knew what wasn't, knew what was going well, and knew what needed to be changed. So we also did an application process again, but this time we also added an interview process, because like Tamara said, these people are an extension of the branch. They're out there, it was good to get an idea of how they spoke, who they were, how would they be out there representing, and how would they be out there interacting with the people that they were teaching. We recruited through some additional Children and Youth Branch programs and some partner organizations. But this time, we also created name badges. Mary, you want to show them your name badge? Woo! So, yes, that had our logo on it and everything, because they are an extension of us out in the community.
Yes.
Also had a trainer notebook and flash drive. This time, we trained 7. All of them remained active. In this cohort, we had 5 English-speaking and 2 who could deliver the modules in Spanish. So practice and feedback. This is super, super, super important. So we had practice time built into both Train the Trainer events, but with the second cohort, we actually gave them the paid opportunity, we reimbursed them for their time to do this, to shadow some of the first cohort trainers. So they could even go up there, whatever their comfort level was. If you want to go up there and help present, if you want to share it, if you just want to watch, if you want to, try it on your own, we let them kind of do it to their comfort level. And I think that was really helpful. And then also, I'm the family liaison. I tried to attend everybody's training at least one time for support and to provide feedback. And then also gathering feedback from the hosts were important. And we'll talk a little bit more about what makes our model unique, but we don't hold the modules, like we don't advertise that we're holding a training. We offer them as a resource to existing groups of parents. So when somebody contacts me and requests a training, and a training is held, I always talk to the group leader after that and say, how did it go? Did it fit your group? What could be different? What was great? So that's been an important piece too, to improving the trainings.
So when we created the brochure, we found that promoting it was essential to the success of the program, right? You've got to promote it. So we chose a lot of different venues to share and place the brochure itself, like in places where families gathered, medical practices. We also looked at sharing it with agencies so that agency professionals had an opportunity to view the modules and see where they also thought it would be a good fit. Then we also had family partners who have been asked to share the overview presentation within their own communities, because that's where we build those everyday family relationships. That's where we have the relationships with the agency partners, and that helps us spread the message of parents as collaborative leaders. That way, we're also creating a healthy interest in making family engagement a reality. Did y'all hear me say that word? Family engagement, a reality, instead of just a pipe dream that you occasionally throw darts at and you see, well, if we do this, it might work, and then you come back and say, well, that didn't, what else can we do? This is an opportunity to take the message where families are and to really help them do something that they love to do, which is share my story, giving me an opportunity to tell you and share with you what works and what doesn't.
Okay, so on this slide, we just wanted to show you what some of our training volume has been with this training series. So the number of participants does represent some duplication in, especially if they are attending, the entire 10-module series. Now, in 2018, we did have a dip in our number of modules, and that was mostly because North Carolina suffered a series of weather events that from the eastern part of the state all the way over to the western part of the state. So that wound up canceling a lot of the events. So in regards to training evaluations, so we had our training methodology was really infused at the very onset of our entire process. So we have evaluation immediately for the participants after they had completed the modules to assess how do they plan to use this information or the skills. But probably what may be a more distinctive piece is then we followed those individuals for 1 and 2 years post-training, in which we really are now trying to identify what is the true impact. How are they actually applying this information that they have learned? So I know there's a lot of information on these slides. So these are some of the statements of which we are assessing. These are the ones that we are looking specifically at measuring both their confidence and their comfort with the key elements from the different modules. And as you would hope, over the course of time, that their confidence does increase. So we're seeing in this that, by year 2, we do see this upward trajectory moving from some of the time to all of the time. And I think it certainly does say that, you're seeing that increased confidence, their ability to reach out to the community, to establish relationships, to contact professionals and even elected individuals. Now on this one, the next step is we want to see now how that confidence is now put into actual application. So these are the elements that we are measuring to sort of see the tangible examples of their taking action. And again, now I know this is very busy, so hang with me because the next slide actually does sort of summarize it or group it a little bit easier. But in seeing this improvement from the first year to the second year, and we in looking at this where you're seeing an increase in active participation in groups or active in public speaking or facilitating groups, we see that the skills that they have learned in this curriculum is helping to move the families really kind of from what we characterize as the me to the we. Yeah. That they are beginning to see where their interests it can really make a difference in their communities and that impact. So this is the same, the previous slide, and then just kind of grouping it. So out of our participants that reported at 2 years, I mean, 100% are saying now that they are regularly coaching families, joining groups, using social media to make other individuals aware of specific issues or to promote issues. 90% are participating in advisory groups or volunteering now in community groups, that are going to help to move forward areas of interest. And then you're looking at nearly 3/4 of them are reporting, they're actively facilitating a group where they are using those skills from the curriculum in group dynamics, communication skills, conflict resolution. They're actually able to use these effectively.
Okay, so this is, in their own words, this is some of the qualitative data. So you'll see just highlighted in red are just some of the key words that we were really looking for, because in a place in the evaluation, they get to write down, just kind of in their own words what they're using it for and what's been important to them. And, this is what we want to see. They're going out, they're speaking, they are participating as an advocate, they're advocating for funding. They're really, you see a theme here, and you can go to the next slide too, Tamara, just some more, where the whole communication piece, because this curriculum does focus on conflict resolution, communication skills, working together in groups, solving problems in groups, and you really could just see all of that represented in some of these. And this is what we want to see. And this is just a very small. It was so hard to narrow it down because there were so many. We had so many comments, but these were just some that just really, really stood out to us.
So for us, and when I say us, I mean parents and family partners, we realized that there were some things that we could agree on through the use of this particular curriculum. We agreed that we all come to the table with our hearts and our passion, and that can be a challenge when we're working with a group. We recognize that from the very beginning. But we also realized that going through this particular curriculum and with the skill sets that were introduced to us, that were expounded upon in the curriculum, we were able to really support a real-life discussion about challenges and barriers without allowing our emotions to get the very best of us. This is my scenario. When I first came to working in the field as a family partner, I was the mad black woman. Yes. And I have to own that because that's who I was through all of those experiences. With this particular curriculum, and I'm still learning, I'm still growing, but it has allowed me to resolve conflict in an appropriate manner. I have some pretty good behavior skills right now. I communicate much better than what I used to. And let me tell you, my 18-year-old will tell you just that. So we realized that the modules help us to build opportunities for learning on all the stuff that's in between each module so that we can really have effective communication, which includes real discussion about the elephant that's already in the room, that's standing up on the table, that's jumping up and down, and we can build a plan that will just help that elephant settle down. So the modules keep us moving, as Tamara said, in a forward direction, and also ensuring that advocacy can and does happen. So all of the modules are relevant to helping parents become collaborative leaders, but my favorite, and I'm just going to tidbit, my favorite is Module 4. Now, I'm not going to tell you what that is, so you're going to have to use your thumb drive and sit down and go through it. Parents, can I get an amen? So when you look at this particular slide, we want you to think about where you are in your state, in your community, and what agencies might you be willing to commit to going back and having a discussion around this particular curriculum. We want you to ask yourself, who can you share parents as collaborative leaders with? At the state level, at the local level, and then who are the parents? Who are the caregivers? Who are the family members that you want to positively impact? Now, with that being said, I'm giving you a pause, so I want you to make a note, mentally or write it down, of at least a couple of groups that you want to take this back to. Because if you don't walk away with an action plan, what's going to happen? Nothing! And parents are going to say, okay, nothing happened. You're going to say, I learned some great stuff, but I didn't do anything with it. That is not our goal. That's not our goal. So at least think about one or two groups that you might want to interact with.
All right, so let's talk about the money. So, we decided early on that, that our family partners deserve to be paid just as and acknowledge their lived experience, just as those professionals that are sitting around the table with all those alphabets, following their name. So we came up with an hourly rate that does include the actual time of the activity, and it does include prep time in addition. We also do travel reimbursement, and what we do is, our family partners, they follow our state travel guidelines that we have for all government employees. And the difference regarding the reimbursement is we actually have an external contractor it's a family-centered nonprofit that actually processes just our parent reimbursement component. The reason why we went with that is because this contractor can actually process the reimbursements in a quicker turnaround time than what the state government can. So, and that's especially important because these family partners are fronting a lot of the costs when it comes to travel, gas, or if it's lodging. So our typical turnaround time from receipt of the actual reimbursement paper to our contractor processing and disbursement of funds directly to those parents is under 2.5 weeks.
Y'all didn't clap?
Okay, so kind of looking at what are some of the key points that we've learned over this process. I can't stress enough that when we did that first cohort, which was also our pilot, we learned so many foundational elements that really helped us to refine the process before we started rolling out this curriculum statewide. We had intentionally developed multiple evaluation levels in that pilot. For instance, our participants in that pilot, who were all parents, they were actually reimbursed for their participation in the pilot because we were asking them to evaluate the whole format of the curriculum. They also were asked to evaluate the potential trainers so that the trainers could learn from that information. The trainers themselves did a self-assessment, again, so that they could look at their areas for improvement, but it also for us as branch staff to see what we needed to do to help support, their continued professional growth as a trainer. A third evaluation was, myself, I observed all of the 5 pilots and all of the trainers to ensure the curriculum fidelity for both the content and the format. With all that being said, some of the other things that we learned is, for us, we decided that we were going to market this curriculum to established groups, because we saw that in the pilot that, the the established groups could be a cohesive group with this information that they were sort of, moving through and learn, and could draw upon each other's skills to really sort of strengthen the application, within their community, even within their own group. The other thing is we learned that, again, based on where that group was sort of in their own learning process, you could select whichever module best fit them, or provide the modules in whatever order. So again, that's one of the flexibilities, and I think a beauty with this curriculum is that it really lends itself to that. Another thing that I noticed is you needed to have a single point of contact on the state level. It was essential to have somebody there to problem solve, to schedule, to look at attendance, really just to, all the sending out materials, to receive the materials, to get the reimbursements and move those on to the next level. So having that point person. And then we also, we designed our own forms to track the number of modules, to track our attendance, to look at the individual modules evaluations.
I just have to say, do you see why we picked Mary to be one of our trainers? She just oozes passion. She's amazing. So some of our other training model key points, we provide the trainings to organizations at no cost, which, how can you not want to do this if it's going to help and it's free? So we decided to establish a minimum participation of 6, maximum of 20. So what that means is we have trainers that live all over the state. I may have a group contact me, and my closest trainer is 2 hours away, hour and a half, 2 hours away. Although there is value in training 1, 2, or 3 people, we want it to make sure that it's cost effective too. So we do set a minimum of 6. Sometimes we get there and some couldn't make it. That's fine, things happen, the training still goes on. And we really like to cap it at 20 typically, because the modules have a lot of, they have activities, they have group work, they have a lot of good discussions come from these activities. And if your group gets too big, you really lose the value of that and you lose the ability to do that. We set, sorry. I'm fast, but I'm not that fast. So setting training time guidelines. So we learned in the pilot that the modules needed to be longer than an hour. An hour was not enough time to get through the material, do the activities the way they should be done, and have the great conversations that come from a lot of them. So the guidelines are an hour and a half per training. And then, we have some trainers, not naming any names, who like to talk. So they could spend 4 hours on this module. So we have to rein it in sometimes, but really for reimbursement purposes too. So an hour and a half, and then there's 15 minutes on either end for setup and cleanup. So it's 2 hours typically in total. Like Tamara mentioned, we do evaluation at 3 points post-training. So there's an immediate evaluation, which we share with you on the flash drive that we created, and then 1 year and 2 years post to see how the information has been learned. Something else that we realized, and that we do, it was a hard lesson learned, but now we do it all the time, is when a group calls and requests training, it is super important to ask them, hey, are there any sensitive subjects? Are there any subjects of interest? Are there things that the trainer should avoid at all costs? Are there things that we need to make sure that the trainer incorporates to make it relatable? We don't want the trainer to get put in a bad spot, and we also don't want the group to be in a bad spot. So it's important to talk about those things ahead of time and talk through it, because a lot of the activities call for the groups to give personal examples, and then you do the activity based on the personal example. So if something's super touchy and it gets brought up, sometimes the training can get derailed. And sometimes you have to come up with a generic scenario to work from. And connecting the trainer to the host. So when somebody contacts me and wants to do the training, I will, locate the closest facilitator and then say, we'll agree that they'll do it. And then I always I'll email the person who requested, and then also email the trainer to gather and introduce them and say, here's their contact information. You never know what's going to happen. Training location could change last minute. It could be canceled for some reason. It is North Carolina. We're either going to have 3 feet of snow or a hurricane. Sometimes we have both in the same week. You never know what's going to happen. So it's really important to keep them connected. I also encourage the group leader to reach out to the trainer regardless 3 days before, just to kind of say, hey, is everything still good? By the way, this has happened since I talked to you last. Don't bring this up. This might be a good topic, just so they have that information. Okay, these are just some tips. Mentioned before, modules really need to be at least an hour and a half. I'm sure they could be longer, but we use an hour and a half. So from the pilot, something we learned, and there are other organizations in our state that do these trainings, more than 3 modules in one day was too much, according to the feedback. It was information overload. People were not able to absorb it. I like to do no more than 2 personally, but I'll schedule up to 3. If they ask for like a 2-day back-to-back marathon, I will say, I'm sorry, we can't do that, because we've learned that it's just too much. You're not getting out of it. It's not something just to check off your list. We really want to make sure that it's useful and that people really absorb and gain knowledge from this and are able to apply it. Something else that was super important and that we did in the Train the Trainer program that we wrote was to coach trainers how to establish ground rules, and how it's not just ground rules that we've decided upon, but actually encourage the audience to come up with their own, and then teach strategies where if the audience is not coming up with their own, how to kind of pull it out of them, so that way they're going by their own rules that they created. And also how to use the parking lot. So parking lot is good. It's a good strategy when you see, we'll use it with the next example where it says model for trainers how to handle participant issues. So if you have somebody who's going off topic or is monopolizing the conversation with something that maybe doesn't pertain, acknowledge it, validate it, tell them how important it is. I'm going to put it over here in the parking lot so we don't forget about it and that we can come back to it. And that way, if you don't have time to come back to it, you can give it to the group leader, and the group leader can handle that at a later time. Again, setting minimum and maximum attendance requirements. It's so important. That's why we did the application process and we did the interview. If you're going to do this peer-to-peer, making sure that you have a wide variety of parents with a variety of lived experiences, experience with the system of care, all kinds, any kind, cultural diversity, geographical representation, each little different area. There's so much different just a couple counties over. It makes a huge difference in the culture of our state, and I'm sure with every state. And each trainer brings such unique experience and style to each training. And if a group does want to schedule all 10 modules, 1 a month, that's great. I don't typically send the same trainer for all 10 modules unless there's some sort of extenuating circumstance. But, I think it's important for all those groups to experience the different trainers, the different styles, and the different experience. And then also, right, we're all parents of children with special health care needs. If something's going to happen, it's going to happen to us, right? So it is super important. I've learned, schedule a standby trainer, just have somebody just in case. You never know what's going to happen, and that way you have 2 people ready to go. Okay, some more tips. Okay, so setting clear reimbursement guidelines so people know exactly what they're getting paid for. And, there are some things that require pre-approval. And different people take different amounts of time to do different things. Some people really like to prepare for presentations, especially when they're starting. And they can spend 8, 10, 12, 14 hours preparing. And then some are like, I read over it in 15 minutes, I'm good to go. And they might be good to go. So it was important just to set those standards so everybody just knew what to expect. It is possible to do them virtually. And you'll see another one of our trainers there. She is actually in the audience. And she just started doing the series of modules for the University of North Carolina Cochlear Implant Center, and their parents are all scattered all over the state. So they asked if they could do them virtually through WebEx, and Kim is doing it. She's making it happen. So we are doing them virtually. Again, asking about sensitive topics. I know it's on there a couple times, guys. It's so important. It really is so important. You don't want the training to lose credibility or to have just the effect you're really not looking for. You want to make sure this is helpful and useful. And then, some parents aren't ready, and that's okay. Like we said, we are advertising them to groups of parents who are already meeting, who are already on the level and are interested in working to make things better, like moving from the me to the we, like Tamara said. You know, they're ready to move on and to help on a broader level. And it's okay if you're not in that place. Everybody doesn't have to be in that place. Everybody doing their own thing is okay, and no matter where you are, that's okay. And it'll happen, it'll come along, and it may not, and that's fine too. But sometimes groups do call, and they request, and the more I talk to them and try to help them choose a module, that I realize, you know, maybe it's not time. Maybe we'll do module 1, kind of introducing, you know, it's an introduction to parent leadership and kind of goes over the history of parent leadership and the great things that parents have done. And they can do one and take that, and maybe we don't do another one for a year while they grow and while they prepare for some of the other ones. Okay, ongoing support. So obviously this is going to be crucial. We do have an in-person family partner meeting twice a year that involves our parent leadership trainers. So we get to share, you know, what have you done, what's working, what hasn't, you know, and they just kind of fill each other in on what's going on. I'm there for support if they want me to come watch, they need feedback, they need help, they're worried about something, they want to maybe, you know, approach a topic in a certain way, they know that something's coming up, they talk to the group leader and they need help, you know, thinking it out, I'm there for that. They also have access to each other, so we're lucky. I think they all really like each other. We're around each other a lot. We do a lot of things together. And so they can talk pretty much at any time. They have each other's phone numbers, email addresses, and one of our trainers started a private Facebook page for all of us to kind of be able to contact each other and just kind of stay in the loop and kind of know what each other's doing.
So I love being a family partner. And because I bring my heart and my passion, I knew that for this particular area, I needed to put my thoughts on paper because I love doing what I'm doing. So for 28 years, I've navigated the behavioral, the physical, the medical, the substance use, and various other systems, and that hasn't been easy. I've seen the good and the not so good in others and in myself. I didn't always know how to act or how to even respond, and many times my response was with anger and resentment. Parents are always saying, nothing about us without us, but we also realize that we struggle to be at the table to discuss those elephants in the room. Getting good family engagement at any level is challenging for any number of reasons. Do you agree with that? Just, y'all agree? Okay. So I'm on the right track. The parent-to-parent model is extremely important in creating an atmosphere of trust and open honesty to talk peer-to-peer about their experience. And who better than another parent to share with the parent of a child or children who have special health care needs. To have that conversation across the kitchen table, at McDonald's, in the parking lot, or in the park, when you're really struggling with an issue. Our lived experience says, I've walked the walk, and now I'm talking the talk. As a facilitator of parents as collaborative leaders, I walked into a room, and there are some parents in this room that were present for my first opportunity at training this curriculum. I walked into that room, and they didn't look like me. They didn't talk like me. They didn't sound like me. And I felt very afraid and very alone just because of that outward appearance. But at the end of the training session, all of that was changed. It didn't matter that I looked different. It didn't matter that I didn't have any hair. As a facilitator, I walked into that place, and then by the end of it, we were connected. I had sisters and friends who were willing to cry with me and support me, and we all shed some tears because just talking about our experience. So whatever the module is that we worked on, we were able to find a common thread. And that thread of experience created an atmosphere of trust that bonded us. The energy in the room, physically, spiritually, emotionally, it changed to one of support, encouragement, and comfort in knowing that we were all there because we were just there. Wherever there was, for each of us as an individual, we came together and built upon that. With the skills and the tools created through this particular curriculum, Parents as Collaborative Leaders, we created an individual plan, and that plan sometimes was only in our own minds, that we were willing to speak about what we wanted, what we needed, and then what we hoped to address in the future. So we were able to walk away with a plan for our own lives and building a healthier community. We were able to think about and have conversations, real conversations about the barriers, and then move into the area of solutions that would better support children, youth, parents, caregivers, and families in our community. We became actively engaged in changing systems and changing lives. So I want you to read this. I'm going to move. Can I move? Can I move?
You can move.
Can I move? Can I move? Can I move? Okay.
Here,
Okay. Parents as collaborative leaders gave me the opportunity to learn how to become a productive parent and work with my legislatures, schools, and cities in order to make the life of my children and other children with special needs better. That's a statement from a real parent. I don't mean token. I don't mean 1 out of 15 or one that somebody handpicked, but this was an actual parent that went through the collaborative leaders training. So for us, parents, mothers who didn't know each other became more empathetic supporters and understanders of systems operations with the desired outcome to become healthier voices for children and families, effectively engaging and affecting our communities because of our own empowerment. We are stronger, really don't need permission to be empowered because we're already that. But we gained some tools through the use of this particular curriculum that we became stronger and better informed than we were ever before. So I encourage you to take the curriculum, look at it, do something with it, and help change your community. See, I needed to stop.
I can't. It's hard to follow Mary. So we're going to wrap it up with that wonderful, wonderful ending comment from Mary. This is my contact information. So like I said, you have all the documents. You have the curriculums and the flash drive, some documents we created for Train the Trainer. If you have any questions or you want something else, that's my email address. And with that, we will go to questions. I will say you need to ask your question into the microphone, so please wait for the mic to make it to you.
Where can I get that flash drive?
Yes. So we have them up here. No, yes. So we do have flash drives. We have made how many? We have 60. So what we want to do is just make sure that it's one per agency or entity. If there's a group of you from the same organization, if you'll just please take one, because that's all that we could do. We also have up here just something I printed. So sometimes when groups call me and they want to know a little bit more about the curriculum because they just get the brochure. The brochure is on your tables. If you don't have a brochure, there are some tables up here with some extra ones. If you guys wouldn't mind passing them back, if somebody back there needs one, I have a couple extra ones up here. But I just compiled some of the information into a document that it's just cut and pasted, really. It's the objectives and activities and stuff and a little paragraph about it from the curriculum. So this just gives them a little bit better idea of what they're asking for. That's also available up here. And again, I probably don't have enough for everybody, but if you don't get one, email me and I will send it to you.
Do you set a maximum on the prep time for the training?
Yes. So for the prep time, that's a very good question. For the prep time for the training, if a trainer has never done it before, we give them 3 hours of paid time to prepare per module. If they've done it before, they get 2 hours per module of prep time.
First of all, I want to say thank you for this wonderful curriculum. As a parent center, we serve a lot of families, and particularly in our center, we serve families who speak limited English proficiency. So I can see this program, this curriculum can be beneficial. However, I do know from our working experience with so many families who are refugee immigrants and speak different languages, there will be another modules or 2 or even 3 that we have to address before we even go into the module.
Yes.
So my question is, if we want to modify your curriculum, is that okay? And how can we go about to do that? I don't know.
So the answer to that question is, it's not ours. We use it. So it's from the University of Vermont and Pacer Center. It was up on their website. It has been down for 2 years, they just said, because of a website glitch, and we have permission to share it. We have chosen, other than just changing a few very minor things that we looked at as mistakes, minor, we haven't changed it. But on the website, it does say that if you need to change it for your purposes, that you can. If you are interested in contacting them at the University of Vermont and asking that question, I have the lady's email address, so you can contact me and I can send that to you. Is there any way in the back?
So how many of you are going to use your flash drive?
Yay!
Thank you.
Hi. So I was just wondering about the in-person format rather than have you found that's just been more successful compared to the online version, or did you consider that, or maybe using some sort of training platform? I guess what led you to the decision to do these trainings in person?
Well, I think the in-person, you have really that personal and really like a didactic experience. And I think, Mary can certainly even speak to that even more so. I mean, we understand in regards to technology that, we need to look at other realms, but I think, there's just something about, just that group, dynamics and conversation that really lends itself to a valuable experience.
So think about peer-to-peer work. You're hearing it all across the nation, peer-to-peer. So it's very important that for me, as a parent, living and supporting my daughter who has special health care needs, that I'm talking to another parent that I can see visually, that can hear me, and we make that connection. Because so many times peer-to-peer is built on relationships. It's all about you sharing your story, I'm sharing my story, and we find a common place that we can walk together. That's why peer-to-peer is so important. You could do it online, and I'm not saying you won't get the same effect, but that face-to-face builds the bond for a lifetime. The ladies in this room that I've connected with, I might not remember their name, but when I see them walking down the hallway, I remember where I saw them from and the conversation, and that's my sister. That's my friend. Raise your hand. See? And it's been a while since I've been in her community. But if you really want parent engagement, peer-to-peer, do it face-to-face if at all possible.
And I don't know if we do have one of our trainers in the audience, not to put you on the spot, Kim, who has done both. So I don't know if she has any, if you feel a difference or if you want to comment on that at all.
So I've just done, we did one introductory model online, and then we did the first module, and I was blown away actually how well it went when we actually did the introductory model. Not so much, but when we did module number 1, we had a great conversation, and it's not the same as face-to-face, but I was really impressed how well it worked. And we did it on WebEx, and everyone has a camera, and so we could see each other's faces, which I think is huge. If it was just speaking, I think that we wouldn't get that same effect, but it'll be interesting to see. We're going to do the whole thing 1 through 10, and we've just done 1 so far, so it'll be interesting to see how the rest of them go.
And I think Kim had mentioned to me that there are activities in the modules, and I think you said that you assigned them as homework, right? So because it's hard to kind of do group activities in small groups when you're getting with a partner and doing something when you're in a group of, so how did that go?
It went really well. So I went through the module ahead of time and pulled out what they would do while we were actually in the session, and I had them do that at home, and they all were great. They all did it. There was one that couldn't make it, and she sent it to me, so I was even able to include that. And that worked really well, just having that sent out ahead of time, and then we didn't have that awkward kind of sitting at your computer desk writing things out. It worked well.
Right, okay.
Scott Newport from Michigan, and thanks a lot, you guys. It's really been a great presentation. I'm just wondering if you guys have had any contact or involvement with the university setting, the Children's Hospital there in North Carolina. Have you guys been invited there at all?
There's quite a few. We haven't done, so we're doing it through the UNC Cochlear Implant Center, but not through, there's several children's hospitals in North Carolina. Some of our presenters have presented to parent groups that are associated with the hospitals, like Brenner Children's Hospital, but not actually at the hospital, but parent groups that are associated with the hospital.
Follow up. Would you like to be in the hospital?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I work at the University of Michigan, and I'm always kind of like.
Is that invitation? Okay.
Yeah, but I'm just saying. So what kind of barrier do you think creates that? Not being able to get in there, like you think, like they'd invite you in, like, hey, you guys are doing this great thing. We have a huge population of parents, right?
It might be that they just don't know.
Yes.
Or it could also potentially be a time and organization thing on top of everything else they're doing. What I've done and what Mary's done is we'll work our way into meetings, various meetings, and we actually have a little overview that I've put together that just goes in, and it's a very much abbreviated version of this, but that goes over the modules in a little bit of detail, 1 per slide, to really try to sell it and just show how important it can be to their groups. So if I could just get in and do some of that, I think that might be a better way to sell it.
So this has been a great presentation, and just following on your question, because I was actually going to ask the same thing about getting into the hospitals, and I'm actually a patient advisor or a family advisor within a hospital system in Florida, and one of the ways I would suggest to you is just look for the Patient Advisory Council page on a hospital's website, and there's generally like somebody's contact information there, or I would apply to be an advisor, and then when you get to your interview, then say, I don't really want to be an advisor, I want to sell you this training program.
The old bait and switch. Hey, I am not beyond doing that. That's actually a good idea.
Have guns, will travel.
Work smart, not hard.
From a parent perspective in the hospital, since you guys are administrators, and my son is 12 and has had 14 surgeries, which I know there's others that have had many more, but anyways, if somebody would have come to me through the social work or whatever program at the hospital and said, this is available, even as a parent leader, it would have gotten lost in those papers of what do I have to do when I get home?
Yeah.
So the local parent support group is where I have been able to glean greatly just at home. So there may be opportunities for sure through the hospitals. But as a parent voice, it's a little overwhelming if somebody
At the
were to
time.
introduce this idea. And as they said, it's there, it's available, and they can advertise it to the hospitals and the different agencies, but it is our choice to invite them.
Absolutely.
And getting through to the advisory group, I'm afraid we're going to have to stop because we are at time. But Mary, do you want to walk around with some of the thumb drives?
Yes.
Mary and Tamara and I will walk around with some of the thumb drives. If you're interested, please just take one per agency or organization. If you want to come up and ask me questions, I'm happy to answer them right now, or you can email me afterwards. Thank you guys so much for your time, and thank you for choosing our session.